Hey, I'm John Radoff. I run a company called Disruptor Beam. We have a game called Game of Thrones Ascent, which was a game we released last year on the web, but 2 weeks ago, shipped on iPad, in a few weeks on Android devices. This game is about the politics and the diplomacy of Westeros. So what you can see here on the screen is I'm managing my holdings, my territory. I can build up all kinds of different buildings, ranging from my keep to the counting house where I collect my taxes, all kinds of different buildings. But the real deep aspect of this game comes from the decisions that I'm going to make in storylines. So for example, I can direct my sworn swords, my retinue of henchmen essentially that work for me, and I can tell them to go and do different things for me. And I'm going to stand for different things within this world of Westeros. So I could favor the old gods versus the new, I could be more for my family, or I could work for the realm, or I could be more truthful and cunning. And these decisions that I make along the way are going to impact the way other characters relate to me in the game. Now sometimes I'm making these decisions and it's just affecting myself. But the important thing about Game of Thrones Ascent is that it is a multiplayer game. About 100,000 people a day are playing Game of Thrones Ascent, and you're playing with these other people. So they're also making decisions about how they're developing their sworn swords. And you can form alliances with them, you can marry other characters in the game, you can backstab them, you can spy on them. So all that skullduggery, all of that stuff that you've seen in the shows or if you've read the books, that is what we're trying to bring to life within Game of Thrones Ascent. So there's a lot of content. If you've ever played a game like a BioWare game like Dragon Age or Star Wars The Old Republic, writers for those games are working for us on this and have crafted over 3,000 quests and hundreds of thousands of lines of dialogue. And you're always making decisions about how to do things, and it impacts the future of your progression. Now, sometimes you actually have to have your sworn sword do something for you, and that's where another aspect of the game comes out, which is not everything is resolved through battle. Sometimes you could be like Littlefinger and resolve things through coin, trade, bribes, and so forth, or intrigue. You could spy on someone to produce a solution to a problem. So in this case, I have a few different ways that I could go and deal with this particular situation, but I could choose to say, have her fight. And there's different ways that I can go about this, and now she's going to take 5 or 6 minutes to run off and resolve this for me, and then I find out what's going on. So eventually you have a lot of sworn swords. You can have lots of them going off in different missions for you simultaneously. There's always something to do in the game, whether it's send a sworn sword off or develop a building, craft things, manufacture different kinds of equipment that your characters can use. The product is totally free to play. You can download it, start playing anytime you want. The game has in-app purchases that supports the product. So for example, every week we ship new content into the game. So if I go into the shop here, you'll see an example of that. So while the show is on the air, new content is coming out weekly. That includes items and stuff like that you just saw in the show. So for example, episode #1 of the 4th season, which is called Two Swords, has a special content pack where I can get things like Jaime's golden hand. So that's how we support the game.